Hi, everyone. My name is Haley.
And this is Laura.
And welcome to the Body Pod. Dr. Spencer Nadolsky, welcome to the Body Pod.
Thanks for having me on.
We're super stoked because this conversation comes up all of the time. So our listeners are all women over the age of 35, 40. And pretty much it's all that I work with in my app and just in the courses that I run. So the GLP-1 Doc here, one of the main ones, or one of the main ones that we follow, I'm super excited to dive into this subject because I'm sure it can be pretty polarizing from
Yeah.
your Instagram post. And so this, there's some strong opinions about this. And, while we're here and we have you, I really want to pick your brain. And if there's anything female specific, if it differs from, anything in the menopause kind of space and that age group, or if it's just the same for all men and women, I'm super curious about that too, as far as treatment and how you approach it. But let's start off with, well, I just have to ask you before we dive into that. So you have the Doc Who Lifts podcast with your brother, and he's a physician as well.
That's right.
Okay. So was your dad a physician? Because I saw your post, or did he just take you to the
gym? He was
gym?
a teacher. He was a biology teacher, and my mom was an elementary school teacher. My dad was our wrestling coach. He was also a football coach as well. So we were really big into athletics and academics when we were younger. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And then your little bro, just like, did you both know that you wanted to be physicians, or that just kind of?
No, just kind of happened. I wanted to be an astronomer. And then when I went to the counselor in freshman year in high school, they're like, they make like $30,000 a year. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to. My parents as teachers make a little bit more than that. I can't do
I'm
that.
out.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. So, okay. I just had to get that off my chest because I was dying to know. So if we look at this world of GLP-1s, and I saw that you posted a few days ago, like that some post about did GLP-1s kill diet and exercise?
Yeah.
Let's just start there, because it's also, I hear about it and people with the strong opinions will say it's cheating. What's cheating?
Yeah.
Do you feel that way?
Yeah. I mean, like you think about technology. Is it cheating to use an iPhone instead of a rotary phone? Is it cheating to, if you want to get into the vaccine thing, is it cheating to prevent a vaccine preventable disease versus going it without one and getting that disease, that type of thing? So like we use technology and we try to better ourselves to make our lives better in multiple different ways. Is it cheating to use a car, a nice brand new car, or versus using a buggy, like with a horse? Is it cheating to use a jet with nice amenities versus hiking across the country, whatever? Oregon Trail, getting typhoid, dying in the river, whatever. So
My
I think
favorite game growing up, by
oh
the
yeah,
way.
right. Don't be the banker. You'll be the banker. You get all that money, but you're gonna die. Not like the poor farmer who figures it out. Anyway, it's not cheating. It's and also if you say it's cheating, we're moralizing weight. It's not like it's some sort of competition, where it's like you try to keep it fair because then the competition. Then if you cheat, you can actually cheat in a competition. You get an unfair advantage that the other person didn't have. That isn't allowed. So performance enhancing drugs would be cheating in the context of a competition. Are anabolic steroids cheating? Yeah, in a competition when they're not supposed to be used, but in general sense, they're not really. It's not cheating unless we're moralizing muscle building or something like that. So I don't like it when people say it's cheating. It just completely negates the idea of obesity as a chronic disease. It completely ignores the biological aspects of obesity. It doesn't mean, and this is what people say, but it's a calorie deficit. I'm like, yeah, it's a calorie deficit, but there are biological drivers to push you away from a calorie deficit, eating fewer calories than you burn. So no, it's not. It's not cheating. Yeah, that's. I'll get off myself soapbox for a second.
No, I love that. And when you like, let's go back to that first question of, did the GLP-1 kill diet
Oh
and
yeah, did it kill
exercise?
it? So like, here's the thing. It changed it because I mean, I worked at Weight Watchers. They bought my first company, Sequence, which is a kind of a way to get access to these medicines. You see Noom, you see all these other diet companies out there. They're struggling. They're all struggling, and the reason is because people aren't just going to sit here and white knuckle and willpower their way through diet and exercise anymore. There is a small percentage of people that will be successful doing that alone. But in general, people are kind of fed up with having to kind of white knuckle themselves and feel miserable while trying to lose weight and keep it off. So it doesn't negate it though, because even with the medicines, like, you still need nudges in the direction of optimizing your nutrition. I mean, you don't have to. If you want to just take the medicine and just eat fewer calories of whatever you're eating without exercising, you can technically do that. I strongly recommend not doing that for optimal purposes, but you could technically do that. So if we're just trying to change the scale and just eat fewer calories and not pay attention to the quality or composition of our diet or physical activity, yeah, if that's all at the window, then yeah, sure, I guess it killed diet and exercise, because we're not gonna look at those other things. But I think it more changed it to where, like, hey, now you don't have to white knuckle and grin and bear it, and now you can focus on the quality of your lifestyle habits, and as opposed to just like grin and bearing being miserable while doing it. So like, it changed it. So there's no exercise in a pill or injection. They're trying to make it, by the way. There's new injections. They're combining them with these GLP-1 medicines to basically block one of the governors on our muscle growth called myostatin. And these have been big. This concept has been big since the 90s. Since I was in high school, they were trying to figure out supplements to block myostatin, and everybody talked about it. You can see uh, these animals that had their genetics modified to where it blocks their myostatin gene, and these just huge, just jacked animals. Wendy, the Whippet dog, was just this jacked dog you can look up, and then Belgian
Oh
Blue is a
my
type of uh, cow. Everybody's seen it. I mean, you've probably seen them. Some people would think that they're fake, um, but they're real. You can modified, and some humans probably have some modifications. I always joke about my brother lacking his myostatin because he's short and stocky and just yoked. Um, he works really hard though, but he's always been pretty pretty checked. But anyway, they're trying to develop this. It's not, but right now we don't have any replacement for exercise. And I always tell people we need to brand exercise differently. My buddy's an obesity doctor, Yoni Friedhoff up in Canada. He kind of said this. We need to rebrand exercise instead of thinking about it as like a weight loss endeavor. We got to think of it as a cardiorespiratory fitness endeavor, a body shaping composition endeavor, as opposed to a pounds on the scale endeavor. So you can't get those things from an injection or a pill yet. I mean, maybe in the future, maybe we'll see it someday, and nobody will have to do anything other than take a few different injections. It's not completely out of the realm, but
That's
I
kind of
know.
no.
terrifying. I feel like that's Wally.
It's
It's scary to think. It's a good thought process, though. It starts getting your mind going, like what if we just inject it and that's it? I don't know.
I
I don't know. I enjoy the process of it, of course.
yeah.
Yeah. So these drugs are not going away. Do you foresee
No.
them going away at any point?
No. So everybody's been waiting for the other shoe to drop, because what it seems like is like these things will do everything, including doing your dishes and doing your laundry and taking out the trash. Because like it's like, okay, how can these drugs be so good at everything, and everybody's waiting. When's the weird cancer going to come out? When's the weird XYZ side effect coming out? There are a few, you see these case reports, you see some rare things of like different causes of blindness that they're trying to look. Extremely rare things, though, in large clinical trials that are randomized against placebo, we see a lot of benefit. And these are in thousands of people. When you start putting them on millions of people, you start seeing these rare things like, oh, that's interesting. There are a few more people that got XYZ, because we wouldn't have picked it up in the thousands of people randomized trials. You start picking up when millions of people are on them. But in general, the benefits are just vastly superior, higher than the risks. So these drugs, I don't think are going anywhere. The first one was developed, uh, FDA approved in like 2005, called Byetta. So we've had them for 2 decades now. They are different now. They're bigger, stronger, bigger, faster,
They're
stronger.
getting smarter,
If you want
right?
to say that.
The drugs.
Yeah. So these things are only going to get better. They're going to find ways to hit the receptors in different ways that may not cause that nausea that you get. So so for anybody listening, the GLP-1, it's a natural hormone that comes from our intestines. The issue is that we break it down within a minute or two. Our own bodies have enzymes that break it down so quickly. So researchers found ways to modify it. And now we can modify it in ways that it's lasts longer in our body and maybe hit the receptors that then have downstream effects different than our own human natural GLP-1. So what that means is that maybe it goes down a different stream once it hits that receptor. It gets really complicated, but like essentially they're, like you said, they're going to get smarter and better, and then they're going to hit different they're going to they're finding all these different things that hit different similar types of receptors that will then have different downstream effects. And you can imagine the permutations, the multiple different types of combinations you could come up with. And I don't take the medicine, but it's possible in the future I'm taking one. People that don't have much weight to lose one. I know a lot of people are doing it now, but I think what we're going to see is all that research on it. And I think in the future we might all be taking one.
Well,
I don't
that's
know.
I was just going to ask you that. Do you see us all on this, like in the future?
well, do
Wow.
you
Yeah, because okay, so I was going to say, imagine, so like, because people get really upset by that idea because
Yeah.
they want, well, we should be just doing diet and exercise. And I agree, we should all be doing diet and exercise. But think about the reality is that, let's imagine you got 2 parents who struggle with their weight, maybe it's genetic, whatever. And you see that the kid is, they're 18, 20 years old, and they don't have technically that obesity yet, but you can see they're going on that trajectory. Zoop, you put them on the medicine, you prevent it. All of a sudden, you just prevented obesity and probably prevented heart attacks and strokes and kidney disease and liver disease and every other disease that's related to obesity. We don't use them for prevention yet, but I could totally see that. So that's kind of a world, I think, unless another shoe drops and we notice, oh God, yep, this is another fen. But I don't. I would put the farm on
wow.
it that we're
Really?
not going to see that.
Well, I feel like it would be
Yeah.
Wow.
very powerful for prevention and people who
Yeah.
are truly obese, how it's changed their life. I mean, I think this drug is incredible. I have a question. Do you think that, do you have a lot of clients that are at their ideal body weight and they're taking it for other benefits? What other benefits do you see people taking the drug for? Because I know people who are microdosing for the other benefits.
Yeah, so my practice mostly revolves around those with an indication of obesity or type 2 diabetes, the FDA indications. Now, having said that, those patients, when, like, I'll take a patient with psoriatic arthritis, for example. She was on multiple biologics, different drugs that are out there for her psoriatic arthritis. And it wasn't until she started tirzepatide, which brand name is Zepbound or Mounjaro. Mounjaro is the type 2 diabetes version, but Zepbound for the weight management version. And it wasn't until that where she noticed a large improvement in the psoriatic arthritis symptoms. And when you see these, and all sorts of autoimmune inflammatory disorder. That's with the Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, rheumatoid arthritis, all those different things. I'm seeing the same thing. So I think Big Pharma is smart. They want to make, but they're making a ton of money right now. They want to make more money, and they're starting to see it. I know they are, because if I'm seeing it, they're definitely getting reports of this, and they are studying these things. And so what they're going to try to do is find all sorts of indications. They want to put everybody on the drug too. So because it's incentivizing to them to make more money and put their
Well, what
drug
are other
everywhere.
benefits
So I think
that you are seeing?
yeah. So I think these anti-inflammatory autoimmune types of improvements, we've already seen the cardiovascular disease event reductions in people with a history of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. And that is likely separate from the weight loss that occurs from it. So it's a weight, it likely has some weight dependent effects for the cardiovascular event reduction, but it's a lot of it's independent, meaning you don't have to lose weight. You'll just protect yourself from a heart attack in the future from taking this medicine. So those types of things. I'm obviously addictive like behaviors, alcohol cessation's huge. I got a lot of patients that love it for that. They don't even want alcohol anymore.
Wow.
Even things, biting their nails, all sorts of different things. So
What about improved cognitive function?
yeah, not so much. Not as much. Some people feel anti-anxiety properties from it, but I believe the anxiety improvement comes from a lack of worrying about food all day. So people don't think about food all day anymore. That food noise, what everybody talks about, is that it's not a hunger craving issues. It's literally just, when am I going to eat? How much is going to be? Is there going to be enough food for me to eat? Then what is it going to be? It doesn't have to be anything. It could be a healthy food, like a not junk food or anything like that. It could be just any food. So I believe a lot of the anxiety improvement comes from that all quieting down. Whether there's a true anxiolytic, anxiety reducing effect beyond that, I don't know. But we see a lot of that. I do caution, though, at high doses, sometimes we see a dampening of the mood and motivation. So those cognitive effects can actually, it can put, not like thinking straight, but like motivation wise, can be reduced when you get to high doses of tirzepatide and semaglutide. I see that.
Okay, so I'm going to take a detour really quick.
Yeah, detour away.
And I know this could come across as very political, but
Perfect.
let's go. I, I know where you stand. What is like? Is it terrifying that Big Pharma would have this much control
Yeah.
from the Big Pharma that we know in the United States today?
Yeah, I think that's everybody's concern. That's why they're like, "Man, you're a big pharma shill." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know what to tell you." It's And people are like, "Oh, they must be in cahoots with big food, because then the big food, and then you bring in the big pharma, and then they're all making tons. They are making tons of money." We it would be concerning that they have that much power, and that is the issue, because we want them to be incentivized to come up with these new therapies, but then all of a sudden it's like, you're charging what for these life-saving therapies? Like, come on, you guys would be just ridiculously rich if you lowered the price tenfold. They could make I mean, it was $1,200 to go to the pharmacy. Now they have this Lilly Direct thing. Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk did this too, the two big ones, but $1,200 at the pharmacy. The net cost is something like $600 if you don't have the PBM. So then they do this thing called Lilly Direct, and you can get it for $349 for the lowest dose, and then $499 a month for the other doses. So it's cheaper than $1,200, but that's not cheap.
No, that's still a lot of money for
It's still
a lot of.
ridiculous. It's still out of reach for most people. So, they're how much it costs them to manufacture. There are reports out there. It might be like $5 to $10 a month for them at the most.
Of course.
Yeah. So you can imagine they could go, all right, why don't we they can make it $99. And that's what you see at other countries, $99 for a month. And here we are sucking wind in the United States. So That is a concern. What I would hope, though, is capitalism kicks in. We get these other there. I mean, there are tons of these things on the horizon. What's funny though is that you see Lilly and Novo. They're trying to jump in and buy some of these places out. You kind of see it, but I believe what we're going to see is a few other players jump in. They're going to undercut them, and then everybody's going to have to start lowering their prices. That's what I think. I have to believe that. That's how it works. They don't have a monopoly. There's other companies come into play soon because now everybody's like, oh, these things work. Let's develop our
Yeah,
own.
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, if somebody were to come, okay, and somebody has weight to lose, they're ready to go on a GLP-1. They can't afford that. Can they trust? I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of scammers out there too that are selling products that are GLP-1 but compounded in a way that maybe it's not even the real thing. I mean, so
Yeah, I
that's a
don't.
huge
Yeah.
issue as well.
Yeah, I don't trust any of those people. I think they're all a bunch of scammers. And like, here's the thing: they're to say that all compounded versions are terrible would be a lie as well. I know of a few. There are different types of compounding pharmacies too. Um, you can get mom and pop compounding pharmacy. There's 503A, and then there's these 503Bs that can do mass marketing. And some of these 503Bs are even trying to develop their own generic version for future submission to the FDA. So, like, I would trust those. The problem is they were only available during the shortages. It made it legal for them to copy the patented
Oh.
drug. So now the
Mhm.
shortages are over. It's not. Now the 503A pharmacies who aren't supposed to be doing mass production of the medicines, they're able to make uh, customized versions of them. So if they change the dosing, so instead of, let's say, we'll take semaglutide for example, with Wegovy, you have to go from 0.25 milligrams and to 0.5 milligrams, and you go to 1 milligram, then you go to 1.7 and 2.4. So let's say that you don't tolerate the jump from a 0.5 milligrams to the 1 milligram. So they're going to do a 0.75 milligram custom dose for you. And that's technically allowed. And honestly, I think it's smart. If Novo Nordisk were smart, they would make it to where, which you can do this in other countries, on their little pen. In fact, I got my little sample pen here because I'm a big pharma shill. You would allow they allow you to adjust the in between doses, and you can actually do it with an Ozempic pen. This is a sample Wegovy pen, but
Is
in other countries you can
is
Wow.
this big in other
so that
countries?
would do it. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
everywhere now,
It's
right?
everywhere you look. So that's the thing. So these compounding pharmacies, I don't trust. Like, I always take, would I give it to my family member? No. Would I give it to myself? I wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
Well,
I
how
how
don't
would you
would
trust
you
them.
know?
know? How does the consumer know?
You wouldn't. You'd have to go out and test every batch yourself, or you're gonna trust that that place you're getting it from is fine. And you'll see a lot of influencers. I'm sure there's people listening to this that are definitely taking compounded, and they're like, that Dr. Nadolsky is definitely getting paid by big pharma to say this. I'm just telling you what I would personally do if you want to take your risk. There are people getting it on the gray market. I'm sure there's people listening to this who get it from research peptide companies online, where I always joke. So I'm in some of these doctor obesity doctor groups on Facebook, and I always talk about bathtub terzepatide. So I make a joke about bathtubterzepatide.com and where you can get your terzepatide. because like because you can go out there and
Yeah.
you get research grade peptides. Now some people have tested them and they're extremely pure at some of these places, but I'm not going to take that chance. If you inject something that isn't pure and isn't done correctly, you can die. So I'm not messing around. But people do that out there. So I would urge not to do that. I do understand the cost is an issue, because then what they're going to say is like, look at you, rich doctor. Of course you can afford it. And I get it. Like, I understand. I get it. So I understand why people are desperate and wanting to get a more affordable option. So I don't blame them. I would just say, like, just know there's a risk. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, and maybe some of those risks that people are like, when's the shoe going to drop? Like of all these other issues
Mhm.
and diseases or something, maybe that comes from the compound that you have no idea if it's
There,
pure.
that's their, and that's being their rumblings around like like some of the reporting being done at the FDA about like I've seen some weird stuff, but you never know. That could also, you could also have some big pharma propaganda trying to make it look like some of these places are bad. I get it. There's corruption everywhere, so I'm not going to say that big pharma is not corrupt.
So
I'm
you
not going to say that.
recommend people doing just the name brand is what you're saying? Like just from the
I would. That would be my
The
advice.
safest.
That would be my advice. I don't get paid, not yet, by big pharma. I am going to be on an advisory board here soon. I never took big pharma money, but I asked my patients and followers, I'm like, what would you think? They're like, well, your haters will just say, see, you're a big pharma shill, but we want you to go and try to voice your opinion
I saw that post,
to
and
try to
that's
get them
cool.
to lower the cost. So I said, okay, what if I like took that money and donated it? So I was like, all right, I'm running some studies. So basically what I'm going to do is take that money, and if people are going through one of my studies and runs out of insurance coverage for the medicine, I will then get them the medicine with that money. So that's what I'm going to do.
That's
I know, I love
cool. I
that.
love that. All right, so I want to shift the conversation. There's 900 tabs open in my brain of where I want to go with this,
Yeah.
but I really liked the post that you just did with the physician about MHT and how that plays into GLP-1s, and if
Oh yeah.
taking MHT helps with, I don't know, more significant weight loss, because
Yeah.
this is all the conversation in our
Mhm.
world is, do you take MHT, do you not? And then there's
Yeah.
that whole pendulum of women that have gone through
Yeah.
this, but now we're adding a GLP-1. What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, the issue is the Women's Health Initiative that came out. It really pushed like people not to prescribe it at all. That was wrong. And now, but we're seeing menopause influencers, and there shouldn't be like that shouldn't be a thing. We should just be like evidence-based doctors promoting indicated therapies and going against false information. So women who are struggling, and I will never go through menopause. That's the elephant in the room. They're like, you don't understand. But I'm like, well, I do understand because I have a ton of patients. I have hundreds of women on the stuff, and they've
Mhm.
been ignored by their other doctors because they were too scared to do it. And it's like, no, it's clearly an indication to use menopausal hormonal therapy to alleviate all the symptoms that occur during menopause. But I do have a lot of women that never had symptoms and they feel great that went through menopause. Whatever. Lucky them. So then what you see now is that, like, in order to promote it even more, even without menopausal vasomotor symptoms or anything else like that, they're feeling great. It's kind of this big push to like take menopausal hormonal therapy to help you lose weight. And it's like, I don't, it's never been studied like that. There was a retrospective, what we call retrospective. So they looked back at the patient charts, and it looked like last year, those who took semaglutide by itself. People say semaglutide. It's actually semaglutide. Nobody pronounces it correctly,
I
but
was going to say, now that you're saying it that way, and Bill
everybody,
Campbell says that that way, I'm like, I've been saying it wrong.
guarantee
Keep saying it.
people are gonna say, why should we listen to? He's not even pronouncing it right. I'm like, well, screw you. I pronounce it correctly. I talked to Novo Nordisk. This is how it's pronounced.
I think it
It
sounds
does.
way better that way. Semaglutide. I like it.
Semaglutide. Anyway, so they look back at the charts. People are like, why? This guy is a real asshole. Semaglutide, they looked at who took semaglutide by itself, and then they looked at, look at the people that took menopausal hormonal therapy with semaglutide. It looked like the people that took both lost a lot more weight. Now, the thing is, when you look at a retrospective design, they're looking back at just kind of what happened, as opposed to what we'd like to do is a prospective design and randomized placebo trial. The reason retrospective designs are bad, you can get all these different what's called biases put in. Like, why did that person get prescribed the menopausal hormonal therapy though? And what makes them different compared to the people that didn't get prescribed it? There's all sorts of different things. And so that's why you got to do a placebo blinded trial, because then people on a placebo may do just as well.
Mm.
So in the study, though, it was tiny. It was a small, tiny little. There were only 16 people who took the menopausal hormonal therapy with the semaglutide. And so the doctor we had on our podcast, she did an analysis of the SURMOUNT trial, and that's the one looking at tirzepatide versus a placebo. And what they did was they looked at the various reproductive phases throughout the women's life. And it looked like no matter what, there wasn't a major difference in how well or how much weight people lost percentage-wise throughout the different reproductive phases. So premenopausal, perimenopausal, postmenopausal. And they tried to look at differences. It's hard to look at it like who was on the menopausal hormonal therapy versus who wasn't, birth control and all these different things. But it looked like no matter which way you spliced and diced it, there wasn't much of a difference. The thought, though, is that maybe estrogen does have this leptin sensitizing maybe effect. So it's because there was maybe a signal in some other studies that postmenopausal women do worse than premenopausal. And we all know, well, I don't know, maybe people don't know. Actually, women do better than men on these drugs.
Mm.
I always make a joke, like, how the meme is where, man, I only eat basically carrots and lettuce and some chicken all day. My husband cut out looking at French fries and he lost 10 pounds and I only lost one. Have
Yeah.
you seen that joke? I
Yeah.
mean, everybody talks about how their husband can just do whatever and lose 20 pounds while the women's
Yeah.
just, it's finally the first time where it's like, wow, women they in
They're doing
every
better?
aspect are beating men with weight loss with these drugs. And the newer drug, retatrutide, everybody calls it retatrutide. um,
Say it
Retatrutide,
right, people.
if it's, I mean, unless they change the way it's pronounced, because if it follows the same tirzepatide,
Yeah.
semaglutide, liraglutide, anyway, that one too, it looks like similar women do better. So the thought is maybe there's something about the estrogen that
Interesting.
is sensitizing. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that nope, there's no effect. Stop being silly. It's very possible there's effect. I always just urge caution in saying, like, look, I wouldn't prescribe menopausal hormonal therapy for uh, the only indication of weight loss only. What I would say,
Oh,
though,
yeah.
if a woman is coming in and clearly has the perimenopausal and menopausal symptoms, unless there's a weird there's some sort of contraindication uh, that is going on, you prescribe them the menopausal hormonal therapy, regardless. So, if like, here's what I wouldn't do though. If a woman comes in and she's postmenopausal, she stopped having a period a year ago, she's 51, and is wants to go on tirzepatide or semaglutide, I wouldn't say, all right, here's your tirzepatide and semaglutide. You don't have any symptoms of menopause, the vasomotor symptoms. Nothing, zero. They're feeling great. I wouldn't go, here's also your menopausal hormonal therapy to augment it. Because we basically have very small retrospective, non-randomized, placebo-controlled data on it. If they plateaued, let's say they're 51, they've been on semaglutide, tirzepatide, and they got 10 to 15% weight loss. We want them to get 20 for whatever reason. I wouldn't also put them on menopausal hormonal therapy unless they had those symptoms, because I don't believe that the data is not strong enough. It's possible, though, if they do a randomized trial, and the way that I would set it up, I'm going to be really interested. I've told someone who's trying to do this trial, I'm going to be interested in the design, because what I wouldn't set it up with, imagine you have two groups of postmenopausal women who are both having vasomotor symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Night sweats, irritability, all the different things, all the terrible things that are going on. You put them both on whatever, pick your poison, tirzepatide. And one of them has a tirzepatide plus a placebo, and the other one has a tirzepatide plus menopausal hormonal therapy. I wouldn't run it like that. That other person, that you're confounded, because the people that get the placebo, they're not going to have their vasomotor symptoms improved. So the only way I would do this trial is if you'd have to recruit postmenopausal therapy women or postmenopausal women who don't have any symptoms of menopause, no vasomotor symptoms, nothing. I think that, and then you can do a placebo-blinded tirzepatide plus menopausal hormonal therapy versus tirzepatide and a placebo. That's the way that I would run it. I've thought about this a lot over the past few months because I actually think it would be a really cool
It
study
would be.
because maybe
Yeah.
there is an effect. I
And
think it'd
that's
be really
probably
cool.
a couple of years out till we
Yeah,
have a ton of research about that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that what people will say is that menopausal hormonal therapy, and there's some people saying this is it can prevent heart attacks and heart disease. Well, there's a suggestion that could happen. We just can't say that definitively the way that the studies have been. So I think, if they want to start making that claim, you're gonna have to have somebody pay for it because is Big Pharma gonna pony up the money to pay for that huge trial when you can get these drugs generically? I don't know. I don't think that's the issue. Someone's got to pay for it too. I do think it should be done though, because it would be really cool to see. Well, maybe we go back and the pendulum does swing back, and everybody should go on menopausal hormonal therapy. But like
Yeah.
we just can't make those claims right now.
I think that it's beautiful though that it gives women because I, I'm in a different space. Obviously, I'm not a physician, but women will come to me and they're at their
Mhm.
wits end. Like there's
Yeah,
all of these changes happening and they're just like help somebody help me. Just
yeah,
help me. And if you're in the camp that you don't want to take MHT or you're in the camp that you do, it's so refreshing for the women to be like, "Oh, I don't have to do this. If I don't want to go on this, but I do want to take a GLP-1, great, that works for me. If I do want to take it and whether it changes anything or not, which we don't it sounds like we don't know, at this point, then there's options. There's not just like
Mhm.
one way, which is usually where the confusion comes when we're streamlining one way only to anything.
yeah, yeah. A good physician should be able to have these risk benefit discussions with the patient. Um, The system's kind of broken though. That's why I left the system. I do like it's I don't call it concierge. It's a direct care model. It's just $150 a month. I try to, with a dietitian and a strength coach and all the different things. But like a regular model, you get like 5-10 minutes with your doctor. You see him every once a year. You try to get in. It's a wait
Mhm.
period of
Yeah.
3 to 6 months type of thing. So it's really a terrible system because women are like, I get a ton of women that are like, man, I swear I'm not going crazy. The doctor wanted to put me on antidepressants, but it's because they didn't have enough time to explain their symptoms, and it was
Yeah.
Yeah.
menopause. It was
Yep.
literally menopause. It's like, no, so the system's broken. I don't know how to fix it other than I just had to leave. So I was like, all right, whatever.
How
But
long have you done? And it's called Vineyard, right?
yeah, so that's one. So I left the system in 2016. Was with a few startups. I had Sequence, which was then bought by Weight Watchers. That's more of like again, it's more of just access to the medicine versus now I'm like, no, I want a full spectrum cardiometabolic health program where you can spend time with patients. They get your own dietitian. We have a strength training program. Everything that the person would ever need is in this program. Now, if you have your good PCP and you don't really need them for much, and you see them once or twice a year, and it's just like a refills, you may not find as much value out of my program. But if it's like, no, I want to, I know when I message in, I want to get a response within a day, and I know it's personalized. And if I need a next day appointment or jumping on the call with the doctor, that would be like my program. So I started that in January. Um,
Just this year?
yeah, it's going really well. People
Wow.
really like it. Again, if you don't value having direct access to a doctor and a dietitian and all that stuff, and you don't really need much, some people don't find as much value. But if you're like, no, I want to have someone there when I'm having side effects. I want my Zofran sent in that day. I want like, oh, I'm having hair loss. Oh, we can do some, your various testing, and we can put you on minoxidil. All these different things to basically personalize your care.
Wow. Okay, so let's go back to the obesity because is this like this sounds like the population that you've spent a large amount of your time
Yeah.
working with. Is there like the obesity gene FTO? And I think there's one, what's the other one? M something?
MC4, there's a bunch of them.
MC4.
So FTO is a small, like, is related. There's polygenic obesity where you have multiple genes kind of pushing you in one way, and then there's That's what most people have. Then there's monogenic, where you have a mutation in your leptin, or your MC4, POMC, or you have there's a couple other syndromes that are genetic. Those are the things where it's like the GLP-1 might actually help a little bit, but you may need some other therapies.
Like what? What would be other?
Yeah, there's one called setmelanotide, Imcivree. It's only approved for these what's called monogenic obesity issues. So, and they're upstream in the brain. These upper order neurons that are related to satiety and energy metabolism. So, if you have like a severe mutation or deletion in one of those, like that's where they're young. Like you see these 200-pound very young kids, and they're just voracious
Mm.
appetite. It's likely they have that. That's
Oh.
where the parents were getting, accused of child abuse, and it's only been in the past, couple decades where it's like, and still even people don't understand it very well, but they're like, oh yeah, that was genetic. Sorry. So hopefully you're not in jail. For,
Oh,
yeah. So those are monogenic, but like you see, most people have just small little variations in their genes that kind of push them in another direction. And people, this is the argument. People like, because if you look at the studies, actually, you can prevent obesity in people that have not the monogenic but polygenic forms of obesity. You can prevent the weight gain in the first place, and like it's not a destiny. If you have a monogenic, you're pretty much destined. It's almost impossible without treatment to prevent and treat that obesity. But if you have the polygenic, it's not destiny.
okay. So then this is the $1,000,000 question that people are going to ask.
Trillion probably, but
For people, not women, but just people in general out there that have they're in the camp. You're eating too much and you're not moving enough, and this is how you've become obese.
yeah, okay. So this is what I'd say. I'm like, sure, it's an energy balance thing. Even the people with monogenic obesity, it's an energy balance thing. So it's what's causing the energy imbalance though. So the people with, let's say, we'll go back to the monogenic just because it's severe. It's like, okay, they have a gene that is giving them a voracious appetite. Like they have to lock the cabinets sometimes when they're younger. They just, I mean, I see it. Brothers and sisters, fraternal twins, young kids. You'll see one who's thinner who will stop at a birthday party, who will stop at like a half of a cupcake, and then the other twin who it's like a little bit heavier, eats two cupcakes, maybe three. Same upbringing, same everything else. So clearly there's something going on. So you have certain genes that might push you in a direction in terms of appetite, and that is causing them to eat more. In general, the genetics of obesity they're in the central nervous system. They're related to appetite. People like to moralize appetite. It makes them not feel good. They want it to be their metabolism being lower, but in general, it's appetite related. But the other thing is you can have slower metabolism. Some people have genetics that may, and of course, nurture comes into this as well. But let's
Mhm.
say that nurture doesn't. You may have genetics that make you not maybe enjoy physical activity as much. So there's little variations there, but a lot of it's appetite related. Now, the other thing that comes into play is why do some people store fat in certain areas versus other people? Unfortunately, some people store fat more around their abdomen versus some people store fat in their butt and thighs. Actually, storing fat in your butt and thighs is actually really healthy versus storing in their abdomen. And people have heard that the apple versus the pear shape, but that's genetically determined. So eating, eating too much, moving too little, yeah, sure, but what caused that in the first place? And then, someone that stores their fat in a certain way, like it's going to be hard to modify that. And that's we all have different kind of body shapes, and then there's other people. There's some people that walk around in life that don't try at all. They're not trying to. We all see them. They eat like shit. They don't care about their exercise. They
They
don't
look
care at
great.
all, and yet they look great,
Yeah.
and they don't care. And so it's
Yeah.
like, well, that's not really fair. And people are like, well, they have fast metabolisms. Well, no, you'll if you watch them, they may eat some crappy food, but that's like all they eat all day, and it's a smaller amount than usual. There can be changes in the differences in the metabolism. Actually, there's some interesting genetics of how much they'll absorb. They may actually poop out more calories than just all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh man, what the heck? And other people are just like, they look at French fries and they gain 5 pounds in their abdomen. It's like, thanks a lot. Um, so
Okay, I had a friend like that. That seriously, the second in high school she was done eating anything, she was like, "Well, gotta go." And I was like, "How many times a day are you going?" But super thin and just like never dieted, never had to worry about what she ate. So is that where appetite dysregulation? Is that what you're meaning?
yeah,
What do you mean by that? And can you explain that? Because most listeners won't know.
yeah. So think about someone that gets done with their meal, a normal sized meal, and feels good, doesn't want anything afterwards. Another person, they're eating enough for what their activity and body size is, and they want more, and they want more, and they want high calorie dessert, whatever types of foods afterwards. When it's like, no, this person, like, they should be done. The appetite dysregulation, we have our environment. These foods are designed in a way that make us want to eat more. Trying to just trying to figure out exactly what about them makes us eat more, but it doesn't matter. We eat more of them. Think about, I always talk about like think about tortilla chips, that all of a sudden they're adding a hint of lime. They're doing all sorts of things. You got the savory, you got sweet, you got crunchy, salty, fat, and just in perfect combinations to make us want more. I love that stuff too. Versus, so we got the environment working against us. Once we gain that weight, though, there can be inflammatory changes, and they've kind of seen this with like functional MRIs and PET scans of the brain to kind of see how it fires and dopamine signals and all these different things. It seems to be those with obesity have more of the develop what looks like dysfunction or dysregulation, and we can see it when people, like, when they lose 100 pounds or whatever, and their appetite just ramps up. Where it's like, okay, they lost 100 pounds, now they're at a weight that should be healthy for their height, let's say, and their appetite makes them want to eat so much more to where they regain a lot of that weight back, if not more. So that's kind of the appetite dysregulation. That's why these medicines work so well. They come and hit the receptors and basically shut off that high appetite level. So yeah, that's the gist.
Well, what did you do before the GLP-1s? Because you were a
Yeah,
practicing physician before that. Did you have people come in that really weren't eating a ton and still just could not lose weight, that were at an obese weight and they were not moving the needle with diet and exercise?
yeah, all the time. We have older drugs. There's phentermine, if you've heard of that one. It's a
Oh, it's part of the
noradrenergic.
fen craze.
Yeah. So phentermine was the component of fen that didn't cause heart valve issues. It was the fenfluramine component that they're like, oh, this thing, it was a serotonergic drug and it hit a receptor on the valves. It doesn't really matter. But phentermine by itself seemed to be safe. But it's an amphetamine, like it's got what they call sympathomimetic properties, kind of like an upper. That helped a lot of people, but like, the upper component gave a lot of side effects. We had a drug called Contrave. They combined bupropion, which is a dopamine norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor. It helps with depression and smoking cessation. They combine it with naltrexone, which is used for an opioid blocker used for alcohol cessation, and they work synergistically in the brain to help with appetite. Doesn't work that well, but for some, did okay. So we had some of these drugs that were okay, and then we had bariatric surgery. So it was frustrating. People would come in and like, I'm trying really hard, I can't lose the weight. Now the thing is, everybody will say that they're eating 1,200 calories, but if they're 300 pounds and they say they're eating 1,200 calories, it's not possible. It's literally impossible. But you see, I hear it all the time, and I can't just sit there and say you're a liar, because that's not nice.
Yeah.
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 It's not. That's just. It's not, and it's not helpful. So
No.
what I usually say, yeah, I know, I bet you're trying really hard, because I guarantee they are trying hard. They have a very, what's called a high perceived level of effort, meaning they feel like they're eating 1,200 calories. It's not possible that they're eating actually 1,200 calories. They're eating a lot more than that. But so that's why these drugs, they basically make it to where that perceived level of effort just lowers so much to where then all of a sudden they are able to eat the, you know, however many calories. It's not necessarily 1,200, but it could be 1,500, 2,000, whatever it is. It is that the reason I love these drugs so much. It's just finally the patients feel like they have hope. They feel good. They can finally do the things that they always wanted to do and just couldn't, and felt like they were gaslit by doctors all the time.
Well, I mean, and again, just my own little world here. When I have somebody come into a course that's just, whatever, and I figure out through the numbers that they're obese, I don't want it to be one extra step of them not getting results. Like, there's this huge psychological component as
Mhm.
well, coming in and having one more failure from not being
Yeah.
able to do it. But then these, now in the last couple of courses that I have, there's been a handful or more of women that are on a GLP-1, and they're like, for the first time, I don't have food noise running through my head, and now I'm motivated to go to the gym and motivated to eat better. Like, it kind of comes
Mhm.
full circle. Do you see that?
Yeah, that's exactly. That they finally feel like they can do all those things. It's
That's
great.
why I
I
feel
love it.
like it's not cheating to do it. I think it's a tool in your
Yeah.
toolbox, and if anything, it motivates people to work harder and eat better.
Yeah. Takes all that, it helps the mental space that they
Yeah.
had that was committed toward just worrying about food and everything, to now all of a sudden they can focus and get things done.
So you would put, if you had a family member that was struggling significantly with weight, you would have no problem putting that
Yeah, I
person
have
on.
some of them. I try to put them on. They don't listen to me, but I try. I'm gonna
You give it to them for a Christmas
I'm gonna
present.
shoot them up when they're sleeping. No, I'm kidding, obviously, but of course, I would only do consent, but no, I did that's, but yeah, they, yeah, no, I
And are
absolutely
they all
would.
the same?
I again,
Are all of them
what's that? The
the
medicines, are they?
same?
No, semaglutide is a GLP-1 receptor agonist only. Tirzepatide is a GLP-1, which is glucagon-like peptide slash GIP, glucagon, uh,
Mm.
or glucose in glucose-dependent insulinotropic polypeptide. It's a mouthful, and every time I always have to think about it. But they hit two different receptors. There's going to be more that hit different receptors. It's going to be quite
So do you feel
interesting.
like people need to try different ones to see what works best for them?
I generally put people to tirzepatide first because it's better tolerated, works, it's stronger. But once in a while, they don't tolerate that one. I'll try the Wegovy or semaglutide. But a lot of people that are on semaglutide didn't tolerate it. They actually do better on the tirzepatide. So that's my
Mhm.
go-to. In the future, it's going to be interesting because I think we're going to see with the different receptors. We're gonna it'll be more of a game of figuring out what people
Mm.
tolerate best.
Interesting.
If we're wrapping this up,
Hmm.
and really, it sounds like there's a small percentage of people that it might not be a good option for, and probably for the side effects that they're experiencing.
Hmm.
So there's no contraindications for someone with like a bad liver, or I don't know, anything like that.
No, the only contraindications, can't be pregnant. I mean, maybe in the future, just put everybody, including the baby, on it, but not right now. We don't want to do that. The contraindications, medullary thyroid cancer, and the reason is because they saw it in rats. Rats have different receptors on their thyroid C cells. Humans don't have them or don't readily have them, but they saw the signal in rats. So we don't put it on any with a specific, it's a rare type of thyroid cancer, medullary thyroid cancer, or something called multiple endocrine neoplasia type 2. And the reason is that because it also arises medullary thyroid cancer. Those are like the big contraindications, reasons you
Mm.
can't take it. People are always like, well, I had pancreatitis before. Well, if it was just from your gallbladder, you can get gallstone pancreatitis or alcohol or triglyceride induced pancreatitis, not a contraindication. Just some of those things are cautioned. So also breastfeeding, it's not known. A little bit might get in the milk, but if the baby's getting it orally, it's probably getting broken down. So actually, people think that it's probably safe, but on the label of the medicine, it's like caution. I tend to be more risk averse, so I don't do it. But I think in the future we're probably going to be like, it's probably fine. But I don't personally just yet. I don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to get sued. Okay, so if someone is coming to you, because concierge care, there's a lot of physicians now starting to do concierge care for good reason.
Yeah,
for good reason, for everything you said.
Sick of the health.
But I mean, that can range up to $800 to $1,000 a telehealth visit.
Yeah, some people charge $3,500 and couple, $1,500 or whatever for follow-ups so I want mine to be subscription because I want long-lasting relationships with patients. Like instead of just like, all right, I'm going to make a lot of money now. I'm thinking about this as like doctors that care about medicine go into it to develop relationships with patients, and you want to it makes my job easier. Once I get to know somebody, I'm like, I can be myself. I don't have to be this sterile doctor or whatever. I can make jokes, laugh and whatever. So that's why I make it the way I do.
Okay. So people can find you at Vineyard. What's the website?
Joinvineyard.com. Apparently someone owned Vineyard because it's probably a wine.
I was thinking Vineyard Vines, the clothing store.
There's a whole story of why I chose it. I basically wanted to there's some of these places out there, they're so cheap and it's a race to the bottom. So I want it to be like a little bit higher upscale version of what you see online. And so I was like, Vineyard, that sounds like a classy, nice name, and nobody owned it. So I was like, all right, I'm going with that. So that's why I chose the name. And I was like, it'd be a place where I'd want to hang out with people at a vineyard, drinking wine, even though if you're taking the medicine, you're not going to be drinking wine. But like, that's kind of the thought process. Buzzkill. Let's skip the medicine for a week so we can drink a little bit of wine. But yeah, so joinvineyard.com. I only hire obesity trained doctors. You get direct connection with them. A lot of these other places, they have a care coordinator. So you're talking to a care coordinator and not the actual doctor. And they sound like bots. So small patient panels. It's supposed to be white glove, but it's not white glove prices where you're paying $1,000 a month or whatever.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating. Well, thank you so much, Spencer, for coming on. And, I've been wanting to chat with you for a long time because I told you I met you like 15 years ago at a gym when Alex Bryce was training me.
Yeah.
You don't remember.
He's still my strength coach, so it's good.
He is?
Yeah. He's my he does my Lift RX program, which everybody gets for free in Vineyard. Yeah.
He wrote my glutes program. I love it. He's great. He's great. Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for your time and for what you are bringing to this space. I know our audience is really going to appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving us a 5-star rating and sharing the Body Pod with your friends.